The girl peered through the crack of the door in horror, seeing her sister, who had been dead for years, now standing in the living room, limping as she circled around. She could not believe her eyes. So she curiously called out to her sister. When Ja-young turned back to look at the living room, her sister had already vanished. Ja-young cautiously stepped into the living room, and after glancing around, she suddenly noticed her doll had fallen under the sofa, so she bent down to pick it up. Her sister appeared with a smile fixed on her face, suddenly grabbing Ja-young by the throat, releasing strange bursts of laughter. Just as Ja-young was about to suffocate, she jolted awake from the nightmare, drenched in sweat. Her younger sister, Seo-woo, sitting at the bedside, immediately asked what had happened. She then noticed a mark on Ja-young's neck and blood under her fingernails, so she rushed to find the first aid kit. But Ja-young was lost in confusion, unsure if what just happened was real or only a dream. Ja-young is a high school student and also a member of the Horror Enthusiast Club. During the summer break, 5 members with the same passion gathered to film paranormal videos, and to their surprise, each video gained impressive views. This time, the group's leader Ki-ho found new material and invited them to film a video about necromancy, the legendary summoning ritual. But the ritual required 6 people to complete, while the group only had 5. At that moment, Seo-woo came over with the first aid kit, and Ja-young suddenly invited her to join, and being at a playful age, she agreed without hesitation. The next day, the 6 of them set off with excitement to film the video. They searched from day until night, and finally arrived at their destination. Mion immediately recognized it as a place once used to transport bodies during the colonial era, but now it had become an abandoned building. They soon stepped inside together, and the eerie atmosphere of the building was perfect for filming a paranormal video. At that moment, Dong-jun unexpectedly found a pentagram on the wall, quickly calling the others to take a look. Ki-ho said the pentagram was perfect to be used as the ritual circle for necromancy, as if the place was made for them, and he believed this video would surely go viral. Then they continued to explore, but when opening one door, a foul stench hit them, nearly making them give up on filming. But there was no better material available, so they forced themselves to go inside. They were met with the sight of massive stone pillars, each bound with chains, and the sinister atmosphere instantly filled them with dread. Yet unexpectedly, despite being abandoned for years, the place still had electricity. When the lights flickered on, they noticed a pool of water in the center of the pillars, and shockingly, the water was black. Ki-ho said they could use the well water for the ritual, and according to him, black water could keep spirits from escaping. Legend had it that during the colonial period, all water spirits gathered here through the sewers, and countless souls had condensed in this well. After hearing Ki-ho's words, the girls instantly broke out in goosebumps. But that was exactly the kind of effect they wanted for their video, so they immediately began their filming. Ki-ho poured cow's blood around the pool, forming a pentagram, which was the array to summon a demon. When everyone finished filming and prepared to leave, Ja-young suddenly suggested performing a real summoning ritual. Originally, they had only planned to make a video for attention, never thinking of performing the actual ritual, but Ja-young thought they could try it, believing the effect would be far more real. But the summoning ritual required someone to be possessed, and none of the members volunteered. Then Ja-young's sister stepped forward and said she could do it. The others sighed in relief and quickly agreed to hold a real summoning ritual. They soon began the preparations, and Ja-young cut her palm with a knife, mixing her own blood with the cow's blood on the ground. Then, Ki-ho handed out paper and pens, telling them to write down their questions, which the demon would answer once summoned. After writing, Ja-young put her anklet on her sister, saying it would keep her safe. Seo-woo was deeply moved because it was the first time she had ever received a gift from Ja-young. Not long after, the 5 filled bowls with the black water from the pool, and each stood on one point of the pentagram. They lit the candles in front of them and placed their papers face down in the bowls. The one to be possessed had to stand barefoot in the center wearing a hood, Under Kiho's direction, Seo Woo stepped barefoot into the pool, and they began chanting.
열었습니다. 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 들어오세요.
When the chant was finished, Kiho hurried to record with his camera, but Seo Woo showed no response. Kiho thought the ritual had failed and asked her to pretend she was possessed. But the next moment, Seo Woo began breathing heavily. A loud sound filled the room, and she moved in strange ways. Seeing this, they immediately grew alert, and Kiho quickly turned his camera back on. Dongjun realized that Seo Woo was possessed and wanted to stop it, but Kiho, in order to capture the dramatic footage, shouted at Dongjun not to come closer. Seo Woo gave a chilling smile, sending shivers down their spines. She pointed her finger at each of them, and the papers in their bowls began to reveal answers. Everyone's expression upon seeing the answers was deeply intriguing. After that, Seo Woo began acting strangely again. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew out the candles, plunging the room into darkness. By the faint light, Jia-young saw Seo Woo circling endlessly in the pool, looking exactly like her sister, circling in the living room from her dream. Seo Woo's actions grew more terrifying, and Dongjun finally rushed forward, ignoring Kiho's filming. When the hood was pulled off, Seo Woo had already fainted. The situation was urgent, so Ye-yoon decided to call the police, but found there was no signal. To their despair, the door would not open, no matter how hard they struck it. Dongjun smashed at the doorknob with a baseball bat until it broke off, but the door remained closed. Even the once excited Kiho was now filled with fear. Meanwhile, Mi-yeon thought she heard a sound not belonging to them, and when she looked around, she realized it came from above. But only Mi-yeon could see it, and the others had no idea what she was experiencing. At that moment, the phones briefly regained signal, but just as they tried to call for help, it cut off again. While they were confused, Mi-yeon gave a chilling laugh, and Dongjun curiously approached her. When Dongjun and Jia-young pulled Mi-yeon aside, her face was covered in blood. Then she picked up the broken baseball bat, tilted her head, and muttered to herself. At this moment, Jia-young seemed to realize that Mi-yeon's target was her younger sister, so she quickly stepped in front to stop Mi-yeon from approaching. But in the next second, Mi-yeon was suddenly struck through the body by Kiho with a baseball bat. Kiho's action shocked the others. They never imagined it would result in someone's death. Yet none of them noticed that Kiho, who had been keeping his head down, now had pitch-black eyes, showing that the demon had already moved into his body. Dongjun grabbed Kiho, and Kiho instantly regained consciousness, but he had no idea what he had just done. When he saw the lifeless Mi-yeon, Kiho collapsed on the ground in fear. Nearby, Jia-young suddenly noticed a shadow crouching on the floor. But the moment Dongjun walked over, it disappeared. At that moment, Dongjun picked up Mi-yeon's paper slip from her hand and found her question was related to Kiho. This made Dongjun instinctively believe that Kiho intentionally killed Miyeon. It turned out that not long ago, Kiho had accidentally discovered Miyeon's secret and used it to threaten her into obeying him. But Miyeon was not the type to back down. She had already discovered Kiho's secret of stealing other people's accounts, and their conflict escalated from there. Dongjun guessed this was the reason Kiho killed Miyeon, but Kiho desperately defended himself, saying that even though his relationship with Miyeon was bad, he would never kill her. He then thought the camera might have recorded everything, so he replayed it again and again. He saw that when Miyeon was attacked, the version of himself in the footage had a limp, while at that moment, his legs were perfectly fine. He kept showing them the video, swearing it definitely wasn't him who did it. But suddenly, Miyeon was possessed again, awakening and grabbing tightly onto Kiho's legs. Then the lights went out, plunging the place into total darkness. When they turned on their flashlights, they only saw bloodstains left on the floor. While they were still shocked, blood dripped from the ceiling directly onto Yeun's face. They slowly moved the flashlight upward, only to find Kiho hanging from the ceiling holding a knife. And in the next instant, he leapt down to attack them. Fortunately, they had the advantage in numbers and Kiho was bound tightly with chains, unable to move. But before they could breathe, Seo-woo suddenly vomited a large amount of blood. Her condition was extremely dangerous, and if they didn't leave soon, she might not survive. Yet the main door still would not open, and there was no other way out. Ja-young suddenly realized that perhaps something had been missed during the ritual, so she began reviewing the footage. Sure enough, she found something new, seeing that while they were chanting, countless hands had appeared on the stone pillars. This meant that there was more than one demon present, and Seo-woo's hood should only have been removed after the demon was sent away. But in their panic, they had taken the hood off directly, so now they needed to properly send the demon away. With no better option, they decided to perform the ritual again. Soon, the 5 of them stood on the 5 points of the pentagram, while Seo-woo remained in the pool, and their written questions were placed in bowls. Just like the first time, the demon possessed Seo-woo again, answering their questions one by one, and the answers were exactly the same as before. The next step was to expel the demon, but an unexpected twist occurred. Seo-woo suddenly began to speak, but the voice that came out was not her own. When the hood was finally removed, Ja-young's eyes filled with tears.
자영아. 언니? 나 진짜 나갈까?
Dongjun and Yeun kept reminding Ja-young that the figure before her was not her real sister, urging her to stay clear-headed. For the sake of everyone, Ja-young did not lose control, and together with Dongjun and Yeun, she began chanting the words to drive the demon away. Before long, the ritual ended, and it seemed the demon had finally left, so they all breathed a sigh of relief. At that moment, the signal returned, and Dongjun quickly dialed the police, giving them the address, and the police said they would come immediately. But just before the call ended, the voice on the other side called Dongjun by name, leaving him deeply unsettled. He had never told the police his name, so how could they have known it? Still, Dongjun didn't think too much, believing as long as someone came to rescue them, that was enough. So they sat down to rest for a while, and Dongjun chose to sit next to Ja-young. He feared that if they didn't make it out alive, he would never have the chance to express his feelings. So he wrote his thoughts on his phone and showed it to Ja-young. To his surprise, Ja-young also had feelings for him, so they confessed their love to each other. And Yeun, who had always secretly liked Dongjun, shed tears of heartbreak. Then the candles suddenly went out again, and when they flickered back on, Kiho was lying in a pool of blood, meaning the demon had never truly left. So they replayed the footage and discovered that Seo-woo had unlocked Kiho's chains, after which Kiho used the knife to end his own life. After watching the video, Yeun broke down crying, rushing to the door and pounding on it desperately, longing to escape. But the demon would not let them go so easily, and in the next moment, Yeun was possessed. Ja-young and Dongjun struggled with all their strength to pull Yeun out of the pool. Dongjun tried to call for help again, but when he opened Kiho's phone, he saw a message that made him realize something terrifying. To confirm his suspicion, he checked Kiho's question slip. It turned out that Kiho had asked the demon whether his channel could reach 1 million followers, and now that the number had been achieved, he had paid with his life. The same was true for Miyan. They both died after the demon's predictions came true. This meant that as long as the demon's answers matched the final outcome, the person who asked the question would face death. At this moment, Ye-eun was too frightened to speak, because the question she had asked was whether Dongjun would choose her or Jae-young in the end. And the demon's reply matched Dongjun's choice, which meant Ye-eun could not escape her fate. Dongjun's question was whether Jae-young would accept his feelings, and the answer was also the same. Dongjun knew he could no longer leave alive, but he did not regret it, because at least he was still with Jae-young now. Then Ye-eun held a knife and glared at them. She did not want to die so soon, so she decided to kill Jae-young. Because once Jae-young died, both her and Dongjun's questions would no longer come true, and that way they could survive. But how could Dongjun allow Ye-eun to hurt Jae-young? So he quickly grabbed her tightly and slammed her against the wall, trying to make her calm down. Yet unexpectedly, the impact opened 4 hidden doors, so Jae-young and Dongjun chained Ye-eun up and then began to check the secret rooms. They found that the walls were covered with red runes, and there was a piece of clothing marked with the word death. Then they checked the other 3 secret rooms and discovered that every single one looked the same. In one of the rooms, Dongjun picked up a rune from the floor, and on the back was the number 666. He used the translation function on his phone to identify the writing, and finally understood the meaning. It turned out that as long as 5 lives were gathered, one could return from the underworld. Just as Dongjun was pondering, he suddenly heard Jae-young scream. But when he rushed out to check, he found it was Ye-eun who had been harmed. She was covered in blood and hung on a stone pillar. While he stood frozen in shock, Jae-young appeared behind him and thrust a knife into his back. Dongjun could not believe his eyes. He could not understand what Jae-young had done. It turned out that everything had been Jae-young's scheme. From the beginning, it was she who suggested filming the material, but she deliberately used Kiho's show-off personality to let him present the plan to gather everyone. And her ultimate goal was to bring back her beloved sister. When they were little, the sisters had been very close. But one day, Jae-young was playing games with her sister. Because Jae-young was too young, she ignored her sister's disabled left leg, causing her head to hit the bathtub, and she tragically drowned. Jae-young felt deeply guilty, believing she was indirectly responsible for her sister's death. Her parents quarreled fiercely over the incident, blaming each other for not staying at home with the girls, which led to the accident. Eventually, her parents divorced, and Jae-young lived with her father. Later, her father remarried, and that was how she came to have her younger sister. But in Jae-young's heart, she could never move past her sister's death. She always kept her sister's anklet with her, which was her most precious treasure. Until one day, Jae-young saw information online about necromancy, claiming that with her sister's belongings and 5 bodies, she could bring her sister back. After learning the steps of the ritual, Jae-young began her plan to resurrect her sister. Using Kiho's video project as an opportunity, she set everything in motion. After knowing the truth, Dongjun tried to ruin the ritual by removing the anklet from Seo-woo's ankle. But due to his injuries, he was no match for Jae-young. And in the end, she strangled him to death with chains. Immediately after, Jae-young placed all the bodies on the points of the pentagram, while Seo-woo remained in the pool. When Jae-young saw the question slip written by Seo-woo, she froze for a moment. Seo-woo had asked the demon whether Jae-young would always live happily, something Jae-young never expected from her. But Jae-young's obsession was too deep. She only wanted to bring her sister back as soon as possible.
언니.
넌 날 진심으로 사랑하니?
그럼 내가 행복할 수 있게 가만히 있어줘.
She put a hood on Seo-woo and placed her question paper in the bowl. Her question was whether her sister could be resurrected. The demon's answer was again, yes, so Jae-young hurried to chant the incantations. Soon, the room lit up with a red glow, and Seo-woo stood before her. Jae-young did not dare to believe the ritual had worked, so she carefully removed the hood and found that the figure in front of her was the sister she had longed for. But her sister's memory was still stuck in the bathroom where the accident had happened, and Jae-young could not explain everything to her, so she prepared to take her home first. Yet when leaving the pool, her sister suddenly froze. Her eyes turned black, and she muttered endlessly. When Jia Young lowered her head, she was horrified to see that the dead companions were all behind her sister, holding her legs to stop her from leaving. Jia Young thought it was the anklet binding her, so she quickly took it off. But the moment the anklet was removed, her sister's appearance suddenly changed, and she revealed a sinister smile. It turned out that Jia Young's long-planned ritual had failed, and the one brought back was not her sister, but an evil spirit from the underworld. It took the chance to possess Seo Wu and disguise itself as her sister. Before Jia Young could react to the truth, the spirit gripped her neck tightly. In the end, Jia Young was sealed into another dimension by the spirit, never able to leave. Because she trusted the false ritual she found online, Jia Young not only harmed her companions, but she also brought disaster upon herself. That was the full story of the 2025 Korean horror movie, The Ghost Game. Although the film's settings were simple and the story somewhat old-fashioned, the atmosphere of terror was still effectively created. That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.